Oh boy. Okay, well, I'm on. Hello. This is TY Chang from TYT Investigates. And today I'm going to try to discuss what's clearly an opinion on my part, and that's understanding Donald, trying to understand Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the most unpredictable, whoa, sorry, unpredictable president in my lifetime. And I'm going to try something different today with the microphone. I need to get an extension, but until I do that, let's try this so that I can not be quite on top of your face. And then it's kind of like the movie Tootsie, where they said, "How far back should I go for this shot?" And they said, "Cleveland." So I want to go far back. So, in any case, so the reason I came up with this idea was the other day I was watching Donald Trump talk about the environment and make the false claim that he's the most pro-environment president ever, and that we have the cleanest air and the cleanest water. And I thought, why would he suddenly say that? And then I realized that it's probably because he's seen the recent polls that indicate 79% of the country wants the government to do something about climate change. And that includes 65% of Republicans. In fact, I wrote about that. That was Cenk's idea to talk about those polls. And I wrote about that, and you could see it on TYT Investigates right now. And I realized that why would he do something like that? And then I thought about it, and I said, okay, it's probably because he read the polls, and now he's going to say that he is pro-environment, which is false, even though the reality is his administration has been the most anti-environment of any in recent memory, probably in the last 50 years. His administration rescinded 100 EPA rules, environmental protection. They're allowing for more pollution to come out of vehicles. They're allowing for more oil and gas drilling on federal land and water. And so it's one thing after the other. Even relaxing the rules on mercury, which is a deadly poison, and for years has been removed from our environment. For decades, we've been getting rid of it because of the damage that it does to the brain and to the body and the nervous system. And even that rule, fundamental rules like carbon tetrachloride also, which was used for dry cleaning for a long time. He also has relaxed the rules on that, being all pro-business. And I try to understand, when you think about what many would consider bizarre behavior on his part, not understandable, I think that you combine the two parts of him, and I'm sure it's more than that, it's more complicated, but I'm going to try and break down his kind of what I would consider bizarre behavior for a president, and also his wizardry in dealing with the media. That wizardry is pretty obvious if you look at it. When he was running for office in 2016, every time his ratings would go down in the poll numbers, he would say something outrageous. And then the 24-hour news channels, the cable stations, would cover him literally 24 hours a day for a couple of days, just talking about, oh, Donald Trump said this. And every time his polls would go down, he'd say something outrageous, his polls would go back up. And he's come up with, pretty amazing when you think about it, campaign slogans and ads. I don't know if he's come up with it. Seems like he's good at it. Coming up with Crooked Hillary, 2 words. The MAGA thing, Make America Great Again, which is, for his side, a great expression. And it's very simple and direct. So you have his bizarre behavior and his mastery of the media. Then I thought about some of the bizarre behavior. And then I'm, by the way, not going to talk that long today. I'm going to get to the chats a lot sooner. And let's see if we can actually come up with some of this, come up with today's chat right now, live now. And live now, play off. Okay, it's not coming up yet, but I guess I'll give it a second to come up. And so anyway, you look at his support for Russia. Kind of odd. This is a guy that you would assume would be Mr. Anti-Communist and anti-Russia. And he's been consistently saying, you know, it'd be great if Russia was our friend. And even recently, when it was revealed that Russian intelligence in Afghanistan was paying a bounty for Taliban fighters to kill Americans, he admitted he didn't even bring it up with President Putin. And his support for Saudi Arabia, his anti-environment stand, his pro-oil stand, his kind of racism, which I think is part of who he is. Like Charlottesville saying good people on both sides, even though one side had people who were white supremacists running people over and killing them. His being pro-evangelical, even though he has not a religious bone in his body, it's pretty clear. His being pro-LGBTQ, which you would not expect from someone like Donald Trump, who puts on this macho kind of image, telling white people in particular that I am you. And then you look at it, his ability to be able to reach out to the white voting bloc. If you look at the analysis of the 2016 election, blacks, Latino, Asians, Native Americans, all overwhelming majority did not vote for Donald Trump. I think for African Americans, it was 92% voted for Hillary. For Latino Americans, it was like, I think 70-something%. For Asian Americans, it was 79% voted for Hillary. And for Native Americans, I'm not sure, but I know it was definitely a clear majority. Basically, white people voted Donald Trump into office, in particular in the swing states. So in trying to understand why Donald Trump does what he does, I thought about it, and it really comes down to an old expression. It's all about the Benjamins, meaning Benjamin Franklin on the $100 bill. It's all about money. And that's primary. If you think about what it does for his business and for what he's doing, it all makes sense. For example, you look at why would he support Russia? Well, he has a lot of investments in Russia. In fact, Russian oil oligarchs helped save a couple of his businesses by investing in his businesses. Saudi Arabia, again, oil, Saudi oil. He has a lot of investments there, and those investments are all right now coming from oil. I mean, Saudi Arabia is trying to transition into non-oil. They're going around the world looking for investments because they realize their oil will run out regardless in a few decades. And then the U.S. oil company support that he gets for his campaign. So when you look at what he's doing, for example, support of Russia, Saudi Arabia, anti-environment, pro-oil, pro-evangelical, it all comes down to what will help him win. So let's look at the recent things. We have the present pandemic from the coronavirus, killing, now it's up to 151,000 Americans, 4 million Americans infected with the coronavirus. You have massive unemployment. The GDP dropped 30-something%, which was the greatest drop ever, even more than during the Great Depression for a single quarter, due to the coronavirus practically instant overnight shutdown. His reaction to the Black Lives Matter movement may or may not have to do with, well, it certainly does have to do, but you look at those reactions, it's kind of hard to understand it. Don't you care about, you have to wonder, and again, this is my opinion, this is not reporting facts here, just my opinion. Don't you care about 151,000 Americans being dead? And the answer is, I'm not sure that he does. I think he does care about winning the election in November. And he knows the only way he can win that election in November is if the economy is back. So that's why he's pushing for the reopening of the states, which was disastrous. It's why he tried to prevent the closure in March, saying it's really not that bad. I mean, in January and February, saying, oh, it's not that bad at all. And then that's why he pushed for that. Now he's pushing for the reopening because he knows that The economy has to be in full swing by November 3rd for him to have any chance of winning. In terms of unemployment, and suddenly no longer talking about debt, but saying, yes, we have to give stimulus money to Americans, which is the correct thing to do, but why would he suddenly be so open-minded and so open-hearted to want to go give money? Because he knows if he doesn't, the economy is in danger and people won't vote for him again. Black Lives Matter movement, he knows his base. He knows his base does not like Black Lives Matter, that at least the core of his base is fundamentally, it appears, mostly racist. Because anytime you do Black Lives Matter, they say all lives matter. And to me, all lives cannot matter unless Black lives do matter first. And then you look about reopening schools. Why is he pushing for reopening schools so much? Because he knows that if the parents have to be home to watch the kids, the economy cannot reopen. And again, it's about the economy. So that's why he's been pushing for reopening of schools. Now, you have to look at the latest thing as well, and that is delaying the election. He's actually said, oh, given the present circumstances, maybe we should delay the November 3rd election. I have to point out to you that after the September 11th attacks in New York City, 9/11, that's September 11th, 2001, the attacks and the collapse of the Twin Towers, the murder, because it was premeditated, of nearly 3,000 people. Mayor Giuliani at the time wanted to delay the election and delay the transition from him being mayor, so that he's saying that, well, it's because of this emergency we have to do that. One candidate, Mark Green, agreed to it. One Democrat agreed to it. The Republican candidate, Michael Bloomberg, did not, saying this is fundamental to our democracy and we cannot let terrorists change our democracy. So it didn't happen. I have to wonder whether or not Rudy Giuliani gave that suggestion to Donald Trump. So why would Donald Trump want to delay the election? He said, oh, because of mail fraud in the voting, because we're going to have to use the mail. Well, the mail, there's not mail fraud. It's like the mail fraud during elections is 0.00006. It's practically non-existent. During the Civil War, they had, I don't know how many tens of thousands of soldiers voted by mail. And in fact, Donald Trump himself votes by mail, and as does his family. And so why would he want to delay the election, which is opposed by both Democrats and even Republicans, including Mitch McConnell, Senate Majority Leader, publicly saying that that's a terrible idea. It's an attack on democracy if that were to happen. You have to wonder whether he'd ever leave office then. And the military has also made clear that they will stand up to Donald Trump, which is a relief. So why would he do that? Again, if you delay the elections, because if we're able to get the coronavirus under control, with wearing masks, social distancing, washing hands, etc., the whole country was into that, then there'd be a chance for the economy to come back. But that won't happen until next year at the earliest, until 2021. So that's why he would want to delay the election. So it all points down to whatever is best for Donald Trump, and that right now is for him to have power. He has to win that November 3rd election. And the only way he can win that is if the U.S. economy is back. So everything he does is whatever is going to return the economy. He's even flip-flop, which he does on a number of major issues, but he's flip-flop on wearing masks. Suddenly he's wearing a mask. And social distancing, he's not social distancing, but at least he's wearing a mask and publicly saying people should wear a mask and social distance. Even though a few months ago he was saying to his followers on Twitter, liberate the Michigan State House because they want you to wear a mask. And his a couple of hundred of his followers actually went to the Michigan State House with guns, with assault weapons. And so why would he flip-flop on that if that was such a strong belief on it? Well, it's because at the time, back then, wearing masks he felt would close down the economy. Now he realizes, because of all the deaths and the infection rates all around the country, the only way to get the economy back is if everyone does wear a mask and social distance, wash their hands, and treat the coronavirus is what it is, a deadly virus and deadly disease that, we don't have a vaccine for, we have no cure for, and the only way to control it is with wearing masks and social distancing, washing hands, etc. So that flip-flop is because each time he's realized what's best for me winning the election, and that is if the economy is back. So it's all about getting the economy back so he can win the election. Okay, so that's my opinion. Again, my opinion talking about that, and not talking about, that's certainly not anything beyond my opinion. But I've been trying to understand his different flip-flops and what I consider bizarre opinions. It all seems to come back to whatever is best for Donald Trump, for his reelection, whatever is best for him to be in power, and that is the economy has to be at full strength. Okay, so now I'm going to play live all, and I'm trying to get the chats up from today. I mean, I can see them on my phone, but I'm trying to get them. Okay, it's not coming up for some reason. Let's see if my internet is good, and oh, there it is. Got it. Okay, I now have it, and I'm going to go back near the top of the chat first for one chat that I will talk about, and then I will go back down. And Oddly Wired says, hello from Missouri. Hello, Oddly Wired. Michael Esser says, audio and video are awesome. Well, that's a step in the right direction, right? And then let's go down here until we DLJ says, no one believes the Taliban/Russia stories. Trump did well to ignore it. Well, DLJ, I'd have to disagree. I think a lot of people did believe it and did follow it. Hannah Bagnali says, Trump doesn't understand foreign policy or doesn't care or both. So let's go down now to some more. Beth Malone says, what about the $170 million he took from campaign money and put into his businesses? Riley Cool says, isn't there benzene and fracking fluid as well? Okay, so Weena Jensen says, I disagree with you on your standpoint of understanding Trump. The biggest issue is Trump's personality disorder, period. Well, okay, I should have added that. There is clearly some personality disorder as well there. But I don't think personality disorder really explains why he would support Russia. And as soon as he became president, when the first foreign stop he made was Saudi Arabia, I think that points to the money. Both whatever is good for his investments, number one, and ultimately that comes down to him being in power. And him being in power now depends on him, the United States economy going back to full steam. For the wealthy. It's not full steam for everybody else, clearly. Weena Jet says, 3.5 years has been spent trying to analyze Trump's motives from an economic perspective. Why not say it out loud? I'm quoting from Weena Jensen now. Hello, Weena. Trump is a sick man and the political establishment enables him. Yes, the political establishment, meaning in particular the Republican Party, enables them because it put them in power. Because they know if he's not in power, I mean, if you remember in the beginning when he ran, they made fun of him. They said he was not a serious candidate. Even Kelly Conway, who works for him now, said, oh, he's not a serious candidate. He'll be gone in a couple of weeks. But once they realized, once he won, which surprised everyone, by the way, including the polls 2 weeks before the election were saying that Hillary would win. Once he won, the Republicans said, okay, then he's the power. And then when it was proven that Trump had this practically cult following of millions of people, that when he would go support a candidate, the candidate would win. And when he come out against the Republican candidate, in almost every case, the Republican candidate would lose. And once they realized that, it was all about power, and the Republicans said, okay, we're going to support him no matter what. Even people like different senators whom he insulted their wives during the campaign. Okay, I'm going to move down. Weena Jetson says, yes, it does explain it. Licking up to authoritarian figures the narc wants to be like. And Nika, not your concern, says, sorry, TYT, you may not understand personality disorder, especially borderline personality disorder, if you can't see it tie in. I can see it tie in. You're right, I don't understand it that well. It's not something I'm completely unaware of, but I think some of the bigger issues of Russia and Saudi Arabia and probably have more to do with his businesses than it does with his personality disorder. If he has a personality disorder, he appears to have it. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist. I'm not going to go that route. But certainly, O'Reilly Cool says he supports Russia because he wants to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. He offered Putin a free penthouse, expecting oligarchs to pay whatever exorbitant costs. And if you remember, there was also from that Steele dossier, indications that that Putin might actually have some video on him. I don't know if that's true, but the money thing seems to make more sense because that seems to be what drives Donald Trump, at least in terms of some of these national policies. In terms of dealing with North Korea, maybe then the personality disorder would make more sense, although he has talked about how great it would be for him to be able to, quote, liberate North Korea and then be able to bring his businesses into North Korea. Hannah Bagnelli says, I also don't think he had any loving figures in his life growing up. His daddy always had money for him, but the love and approval wasn't there, probably led to the PDs. I actually know someone that, well, I can't talk about it, someone that went to school with one of Trump's sons. But anyway, Ravenhawk 1958 says, with Trump, it's a combination of psychiatric disorder and his need for power. And Nick and Not Your Concern says exactly as Hannah. Okay, that may be the case, but when you look at some of his environmental positions, for example, which is what prompted all this, was that because of a personality disorder, or was it because he'd read the polls that indicate 79% of Americans want the federal government to do more to deal with climate change, and even 65% of Republicans say the same? I don't think that has anything to do with personality disorder. I think that's clearly about him wanting to win the election, and he knows if he sees, certain polls going a certain way, that he'll move toward that. With the Black Lives Matter, I think it's almost fundamental to his character that he is, has this racist attitude toward non-white people, probably African Americans in particular, and that, that's something he could not control. Now, that may have to do with his personality, but also his fundamental beliefs, as opposed to sort of like this desire for money through power, through the election, through the economy. Beth Malone says, what about the emails with China involving Ivanka, like Hillary Clinton, ? Whatever they do, it's okay. Everyone else gets in trouble. Unreal. Pardons his criminal friends. Yes, he does do that, because to him, it's not about morality, it's about power. Power and money. Power leading to money for him, and ultimately him being as wealthy as possible. Now, you could combine those two things, which is sort of interesting, in dealing with why he won't support the United States Postal Service, which during this pandemic is proving to be critically important for the entire country. And that is because a number of people have said, and it's been reported, now whether it's true or not, we don't know this because it's in his mind, that he is extremely envious of Jeff Bezos being the richest person in the world and being worth, I don't know, what, 100 times more than Donald Trump. Well, they're both billionaires. And because of that, and he knows that Amazon is dependent upon the United States Postal Service, critically important for its business. And so because of that, that he intentionally won't support, he consciously won't support the United States Postal Service as a way to get back at Bezos. He also obviously doesn't like the Washington Post because they're so critical of him, and Bezos owns the Washington Post. So that could be a combination of those two things. Getting back down to Hannah Bagnali, who says, with Trump's fragile ego, it's hard to imagine him willingly stepping down if Biden wins. Of course, he will claim there's voter fraud. Not only that, and this is part of his brilliance, sort of like, what do they call that? Well, I don't want to compare him to some of the